What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video on F&H Reviews. Today we're taking a look at my Jeep today. I know I kind of briefly mentioned it in our past video, but yeah, here it is. We're just going to do a quick walk around and take a look here. So as you guys can see, it's not lifted at all. It's got mostly stock. I have this light bar mounted, which I did kind of recently. So yeah, we're just going to pretend that I don't have any of these aftermarket kits on it right now. You know, rocking with the soft top. Really like the tan. As you guys know, Jeep doors, they're designed really nicely with this kit that actually comes with the car to take off these bolts. It's really simple. You just unscrew these two right here, pop it open, and then if you want to take a look on the inside here, all you got to do is undo this plastic piece, lift that up, unscrew this bolt right here, and the door comes right off. Jeep makes it really easy for you guys. And a little Easter egg here a lot of people don't realize is that on the actual brackets here it says T50. That's the kind of bolt that you're gonna need for the for taking those doors off. All of them kind of function the same. You know, the soft top is great. Comes off super easily. So the first thing you do is you pull this back here, and then you can kind of open up this door, take off these panels fairly easily, and you can't see it, but there's a little lever here. You just pull it down all the way and you lock it in place and it's off. You know, it takes a little while to get used to taking the top off and on, but you know, once you get it down, you can take it off and on in 5 minutes. So yeah, coming around to the back, we got this big tire on the back, classic Jeep look. It's great. I actually got rear-ended one time, and the guy actually just went right into the tire, and there was no damage done to my car, and a lot of damage done to his. So, you know, take that as you will. It kind of acts as a nice little buffer for that. And yeah, so this side, pretty much the same. Big antenna here. But actually, if I come around back, I forgot to mention, Jeep actually adds these really nice recovery hooks in here, which are really helpful when I'm mudding and my friend gets stuck. You can just kind of attach the straps there. And then we move back around to the front here. Again, I have another aftermarket grill piece, big American flag, but yeah, the stock bumper does come with these nice tow hooks in the front as well, which I really like, you know, just in case you are to get stuck or whatever you may be doing. And yeah, so this is the 2-liter turbo base model JL. So it's not a Sahara, it's not a Rubicon, but it still does the trick. Really love the car. It's a 2020, so the chassis is actually a little bit wider and a little bit more stable compared to the older Jeep models. So you're not going to get too much of that rocking feeling when you're on the highway hitting high speeds. Definitely feels a lot more planted than most Jeeps, and especially in past years that I've driven. But yeah, if we just want to take a look on the inside now. Moving on to the trunk here, there's a couple things I want to mention. One, these hooks here, which I'm not really sure what you would use them for. I'm assuming if you wanted to mount, you know, different rails that you can pull out. But I really wanted to mention and actually demonstrate just taking this off really quick, and then also showing you guys a little hidden storage compartment that I know is pretty popular in a lot of the Jeeps. That's the one thing that I will say is most annoying about the soft top. Is on the hard top version, there's a glass panel here that kind of really easily lifts open when you want to access the trunk of the car. When you have the soft top, you don't have that luxury, so you kind of do have to finagle it like I just did, but you can see it's pretty easy to take off. But once you're there, you have access to this storage compartment I have filled with a ton of random shit, like these mirrors that I throw on to the side that kind of just stick into the brackets where I showed the door comes off of. And then I just have, you know, a shovel, some in here. I just got, like, you know, jumper cables, stuff like that. But this is a great compartment that I use pretty frequently. As you guys can tell, it's got some other camping stuff in here. And yeah, it's really great. This is right here is where you actually take off and get the blankie on it right now. But basically the lift to change the tire. Finn, help me out here.
Yeah, the jack.
The jack, that's
the
it.
Jack. Yeah.
But yeah, so it's pretty easy to get in there. This kind of panel just slides right in there, and yeah, it's pretty convenient.
All right, so I'm actually gonna go through the trunk, and I'm gonna show you guys what it kind of looks like from the looking in from the back of the car. So if you get through the trunk here, he's got nice kind of tan black interior. As you can see, it looks decently nice. I would say cloth seats. I mean, again, this isn't like a super luxury car, but the cloth seats are decently comfortable, you know. So I would say this car's interior is solid, but let's get a closer look up front at the driver's seat. Henry, you want to show us that?
Yeah, one last thing that I would like to mention here on the trunk is actually this back panel here, which is actually rail trail ready. So what that means is if I were to pry this off, there's actually mounting brackets that are really easily drilled out with a 13mm drill bit that you can actually mount like another tailgate thing on there and kind of make this your own. So I'm planning on doing that. But then there's also a nice little cup holder right here for some reason. It's more like a cup stand. And then this is, in my opinion, the favorite like little Easter egg on the JL, the Sport Utility 4x4. Kind of just has, you know, you're made in Chicago or wherever it was made. Sorry. And then built in Toledo, Ohio. And then, yeah, it kind of just has water fording, little interior specs design there for the JL. Looks really sick in my opinion.
Kind of reminds me of my Corvette Yellow, one of 1600, built in Kentucky on a Tuesday afternoon in December of 2021. Yeah, see, a little bit of Corvette owner.
Yeah, so the one thing that I would say is that is kind of annoying is you can't close that tailgate without first closing this guy in. So I'll just kind of do it really quickly, show you guys how easy it is. Kind of just throw these panels back in here. Jeep makes it really easy with these green kind of pieces that you can kind of see that they kind of slip in really easily. Towards the end of the video, I might do a full takeoff, but we'll see. So yeah, time to move on. All right, guys. Well, now we're in the interior of the vehicle, and you guys can see that this has a nice little gloss finish on here, which I kind of like and don't like. On some of the other Jeep models, this is actually leather, which I actually prefer because then you don't get these like weird scratches on it. But yeah, so like I said, it's not a Sahara, so the screen is pretty small, but it does have Apple CarPlay and Android, so that does help. Really easy interface to use when I'm driving, but at the same time,
YouTube don't copyright strike us.
Yeah, it can be kind of difficult with the size of the screen. I do wish that it was a little bigger, but you know, Jeep makes it really easy to change out some of the things in their vehicle. So if you did want to upgrade to a larger screen, you could do that. You got your climate controls, you know, your backup camera access, you know, if you're towing, you know, heated seats, heating steering wheel, media. It's fairly great. So I do have a lot of aftermarket shit all around the car. You guys, if you do know, when you're buying a Jeep, you're not just buying the Jeep, but you're buying into the culture of owning a Jeep, and almost like you're buying into the community. And a big thing in the community is the rubber ducks. So if you guys don't know, it's called ducking. Basically, you just, like, if you see another cool Jeep, you take one of your ducks, put it on their duck, and then on their Jeep, and then they got a nice cool duck. But as you guys can see, the display here on the gauges is both analog and digital, which I do like. It's really easily customizable. Right now I just have my compass, range, and temperature, but you can change that to a multitude of different things that I really like to see. You know, you got your digital gas gauge, which is really nice. Moving down over here, sorry, I got all these cords in the way, but you know, you got your window locks. Windows are actually right here because you guys know you can take off the doors, so don't really want to have the window thing on the doors. Multitude of gauges right here, and buttons, which I fairly like.
Yeah, I like having the heated seats and all that kind of like as a hard button, and not sort of just something that's like digital or you're clicking through a screen while you're driving. I would say, you know, for the price range of this car, which is probably like 35,000, you know, somewhere around there, you know, maybe approaching 40 grand. Like, this is a solid vehicle. But I'm gonna give more thoughts while I drive this thing, I think. For sure.
Another thing that I would mention is it does have a sequential manual, which I really like. And then also right here is the actual four-wheel drive. So you have 2 high, 4 high, neutral, and 4 low. Those are your different
it's with the differential, basically. It helps.
Yeah, it's like, I don't really know exactly what the difference between 4 high and 4 low
4 low is better for off-roading.
Yeah,
basically, just leave it at that.
But yeah, it makes it fairly easy to shift into gear while you're moving. It is weird. It's not like a Finn's car where it's fairly easy to kind of switch when you're in neutral or not even driving. Here you kind of have to be moving to be able to move it, and it is kind of hard to pull down, which I don't really like too much. But yeah, so this isn't a Rubicon model, so there isn't a way for like locking my diffs, which is kind of annoying. But you can get aftermarket kits to do that, which I will probably be doing soon, the more I get off-roading. So yeah, kind of the elephant in the room. I did get a big little scratch on my windshield, which I will mention is kind of annoying, mostly just because it's so flat, and once the rocks kick up, it's not like some cars will kind of just like either roll off or just kind of go at an angle where it won't necessarily crack your glass. But here it's just like if you get a pebble, you're done. Yeah, so I have this like nut thing up top, great $20 upgrade, highly recommend. It's a little hammock and also a little neat storage compartment. Here you guys can see these kind of flip down, you know, standard mirrors and all of that. And yeah, kind of, oh yeah, moving to the glove compartment. You got two separate glove compartments, a nice little small one up here, kind of keep the random shit, and then a nice super deep one that I have also just absolutely filled with a ton of random shit. So yeah, I'll probably be cleaning that up very soon. Usually my car isn't this dirty, but because I was doing so many aftermarket upgrades to it, you can see there's just like drill bits and nuts and bolts everywhere.
Upgrades.
So, yeah, upgrades.
Okay. All right. So let's get me in the driver's seat.
Yeah, I'll get Finn into the driver's seat, and then oh yeah, another thing that I want to mention too. Over here on this side, there's like a weird light kind of cluster. I like keeping it on auto, but yeah, the fog lights aren't on stock, which I kind of do like to have on. It kind of just makes it nice and bright. And then here are the controls for your interior lights. You can turn them on all very easily, and then also change the brightness of your display screen, which it's not going to change right now because it's on auto and it's bright out, so let's make sure I can actually see it. But yeah, there's the brightness changing and all that, which is great. And then right on the steering wheel as well, there's Siri. If you hold down this button, and then you know you got your cruise control. It's pretty basic. And then yeah, this navigates the front screen. But yeah, other than that,
typical Chrysler Jeep kind of interior.
Yeah.
All right,
nothing too crazy. But yeah, let's get Finn in the driver's seat, and he'll get his little review on it.
Okay. So the first things first, just getting in this car, first 50 feet really. One thing I noticed was turning around. The turn radius is kind of large, so you know that's kind of to be expected with any real big SUV here. But with you know kind of trying to navigate through traffic, that might be a bit difficult. Steering in this car, it's electric power steering. It's really light. I'm kind of used to a sportier feel and design, so you know it's kind of a little weird just driving this along here. But I will say that the 4-cylinder is smooth, and the transmission really does. You kind of have to really shift to give it power. You know, that turbo is decent size, so it takes a minute for it to kind of spool up here. But you know, you're really not driving this thing fast. Let's be real here. You can drive any car, modern car these days, semi-fast, but you know, there's really no point in doing that. Sounds like a vacuum cleaner, but what do you expect? 4-cylinder turbo.
So one thing that I will mention is that whistle sound is actually coming from the light bar. I need to fix that because it's so annoying. So I apologize if you hear that. I will edit it out in the editing portion of this video. But yeah, it does kind of get annoying on those high speeds. But that's kind of just a little quirk in my specific Jeep. Not really something that you guys should worry about when getting yours.
Yeah, so something that Henry was mentioning earlier, which is when you buy a Jeep, you buy into this community. So having been in the car with him before, you kind of always get Jeep waves. It's sort of the same with my Subaru in a sense. You know, if you have a WRX, you're gonna, other WRX guys are gonna wave at you. It just kind of comes with the territory. But one thing I will say about the Jeep that's great is just the aftermarket community is probably one of the largest out there. I mean, especially for off-roading, you know, basically there's like 5 different suspension brands at least you can swap out. Every single Jeep is extremely customizable, and so that's something that I really want to give Jeep credit for, because they did a really good job of just making this car, you know, very easy to personalize. Now, a sort of critique on Jeep culture a bit is there's 2 people who buy Jeeps: 16-year-old girls and people who actually want to off-road. The amount of 16-year-old girls I see driving these cars is ridiculous. Now, I don't have anything against 16-year-old girls, but what I will say is that if you're going to buy this car and you don't off-road it, don't get this car. I mean, just driving it now, It's not particularly fun. The steering is a little too light in my opinion. And honestly, these off-road tires just aren't super conducive to just street driving. It'd be a great car off-road, but just on the road, it feels a little bit awkward. You kind of get a bit too much body roll. Great. But, you know, again, it's a solid daily driver, but I just wouldn't. And you don't really feel, like, I would much rather get my daughter, you know, like a different SUV, a different compact SUV, you know, like, because let's be real, like, she's probably going to curb it, right? Okay, like, let's just get that out of the way. This car, you don't really have to worry about curbing things, but it's just, I just wouldn't get this car if I wasn't going to off-road it. But just driving it on the road, it's a fine car. No real negatives. It's just not, like, the best daily out there, really.
And no, I completely agree with that. So I'm someone who does enjoy the off-road outdoors lifestyle. So that to me was kind of the big pull to get a Jeep. You know, I'm not a mall crawler, which I pride myself in. You know, I do have a lot of these tacky upgrades, which I do like kind of give into the joke. But, you know, it is kind of, in my opinion, just a way to personalize and make the Jeep your own, which I do really enjoy. But yeah, the body roll is definitely prevalent, but I would say as someone who drives this car almost every day, you do kind of get used to it. The steering, like Finn mentioned, is very light, and it also has a lot of give. Like right now, if he's to move it right now, the steering wheel, you can see we're not moving on the road, but he can still move the wheel, which I highly dislike. But you know, when you're off-roading, that does kind of help, you know, with all the bumps. It kind of just gives you a little bit more give, which I like, keeps you planted.
Yeah, there's a lot of play in the wheel.
But yeah, that to me is kind of my biggest turnoff for the car.
Now, so when you're going to buy this car to go off-roading, let's be real, you might skip this model because it's not the best factory off-road setting. You know, it doesn't have the nicest interior. But I think, again, the sort of the testament to the Jeep is you can start with the base model and build it to be a great off-roader. So I really want to give Jeep credit for that, is that they've done a great job with making things easy to modify. You know, the aftermarket community for these cars is amazing. You know, there's tons of, like, people online who are going to tell you the best places to go wherever you live. You know, everyone has their own say, and the community is really, actually, I've been on a couple forums, it's generally pretty friendly compared to some other forums where they just spend all their days arguing over, you know, who's got the best Jeep and what model year was the best. Like, sure, there's some of that, but, you know, like, I would say the community as a whole is, you know, very welcoming. And just as I'm driving through, I just don't like this car. I like sportier cars, but, you know, I can see its merits as just sort of like, if you like the look, you know, and you're not serious about it, like, yeah, I'd see why people buy this car, but at the same time, like, I just wouldn't get this car if I wasn't going to off-road it. And so that's just kind of my 2 cents on it. I will say, Henry, you've had this car longer. Is there sort of anything that I haven't really touched on that you want to add?
Yeah, a couple things. One, the soft top, you know, living in a pretty cold climate can get pretty annoying in the wintertime, just because it doesn't hold that heat very well. In the summertime, it's absolutely amazing, but in the wintertime, I'm definitely considering buying a hard top for it, but, you know, everything costs money. The one thing that I do really love about it is how easily accessible some parts are and how cheap they are. Aftermarket parts for Jeeps are a dime a dozen. And then another thing that I would like to mention is the climate control system is pretty finicky sometimes. It doesn't get cold, or it may not get hot. Compared to my sister has a little bit older of a Jeep than myself, and for some reason the climate control on that car is just far better. And I don't know if that's because she has a hard top, so it kind of holds the temperature better, or what it may be. But yeah, it's a pretty weak in that sense. The media is great, very loud, which I like, especially when you're driving with the top down. You're not going to lose any sound there. But yeah, overall, it's a great car to daily drive. But like Finn said, I probably would not have gotten this car if I did not plan on taking it off-roading. And other than that, I would say it's fairly comfortable. I do like the felt seats for one reason in particular is, you know, when I take this to the beach and I'm driving on the sand sometimes, it does make it a lot easier to Draws. I just yanked that out. It is a lot easier to clean with the leather seats compared to the felt seats. But they also, what I was gonna say as a bonus about them is they don't hold heat very much.
Yeah.
So like if it's super hot out, I'm not gonna worry about being at the beach and sitting down and my ass just burning, which feels good.
Yeah, I would say, so my kind of just final concluding thoughts on this car is that there's a Jeep, driven by a 16-year-old girl, no less. But my point, my thoughts about this car is that it's a good car if you're going to use it for what it's designed for. If you're not going to use it, there's cars with nicer interiors, you know, there's cars that have more, like, better street types, there's cars that are just better daily drivers in this price point. So if you're using this, you know, to drive to and from work, or to, like, go to high school and, you know, like, take all your girlfriends out on a night, you know, like don't get this car. There's so many better cars. Like, if you want a convertible, get a Beetle, right? Like, if you want a convertible, get an actual convertible that's going to be, you know, more fun to actually just drive on the road. But that being said, this is the only SUV convertible that looks good. If you've ever seen a Range Rover Evoque, the convertible, that car looks terrible, or the Nissan Murano convertible, just horrible cars. So Jeep did it right with this car. But that's just sort of my final thoughts on this car.
Yeah, and then the one thing that I will say too, which we didn't really touch on, is the actual back seats. I'd say it's very, very, very comfortable. In terms of the amount of space that you get. You know, I have a lot of tall friends and they don't really complain. But I don't know if that's because they're more used to being in sedans. But definitely a very, very comfortable backseat driver, very passenger friendly, which, you know, I enjoy. I enjoy going on drives with my friends, and having a nice our backseat does really help. You know, I was looking at the Evoque, and when you're inside an Evoque backseat, you want to die. It's so uncomfortable. In the backseat of an Evoque, it's just not even worth getting that as an SUV.
Another thing too, this car, I can't say this enough. Driving this car fast is sketchy. You put your foot on the gas a little bit, and it kind of like, you're kind of like, oh, like, am I turning enough? Like, is this enough? Like, how much more do I need to turn into the corner?
Yeah.
So it's just not a fun, fast car, but that's not what it's designed to do. So.
Yeah, no, definitely. But I would say that compared to some older Jeep models, it's definitely a lot better. So the death roll isn't too bad. But yeah, I think that kind of concludes our video.
Yeah, if you're gonna get this car, get it in a manual too. Manual makes cars infinitely more fun. So really, that's just the only way to have this car.
Go get him, officer.
Yeah. All right.
But yeah, I might do another kind of general walkthrough of all the little fun Easter eggs that you get with the Jeep, which is pretty nice. Just one before we conclude the video. There's little Willies right there, which I do love. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Leave a like, subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.